I'm going back to answering some questions that you guys have written in and asked us, Blonde Gypsy, Lady Hannah, Edwin, Max. You guys are very kind when you write in. You have all these questions. And like it's really hard for us to get around and answer all these emails, mainly because I'm a spellcaster, so I'm not on emails. And but I really do want to share something with you today that's super important, I think, because we do get so many questions about it. And this is to do with younger people doing demonic style entities. And some of the confusion comes around there's other YouTubers and so forth that say, no, it's absolutely fine. That if you're a young person, it's fine to do these rituals. Or that if you have young children in the house, don't worry about it, nothing can happen. And while I really, I will always elevate anyone that's out there doing what I do, and I consider my brothers and sisters in this craft because there's no one better than another person in my heart globally. I really believe that's an injustice to the young people out there that don't have a choice. So let's start with my number one concern, and that's doing these rituals when there's young children in the house. Now, we make the assumption, or maybe some people make the assumption, that these demons, even if you have a triangle or whatever ritual that you're doing and you feel like you contain either yourself or an entity in any vessel, you could be talking about one type of entity. The assumption is that because lots written about certain types of entities, that's all there is. But this isn't true. Entities come from multiple places. Not all demons, spirits, jinn, anything like this are the same. They're very complex species in the universes. And they aren't all here to do to look after us. They don't care. In fact, you can look, some of us are considered almost like a food. And just because I do what I do and I have a certain level of protection, that doesn't make me exempt from these entities or parasites. So that's the first thing. When you're calling to our ancient gods, when you're calling to Lucifer or any of the demons, you're opening portholes. And unless you're a really, that's a side note thing here. If you're calling them into your house, don't believe that for 1 minute other entities can't follow through in the porthole that you've created, in the portal, sorry, and come into your home and leech onto other beings in that house. Now, children are very open to receiving these entities. They have magical minds already. They're very sweet and innocent, and they're very, a lot of times it'll be very difficult for a child to be able to express what is actually going on. Maybe the child just becomes quiet, might find some special friends to talk to, challenges at school. There's all sorts of things that can happen when a spiritual attachment happens to a young child. And being adults in a busy world, you may not even know that your child is under attack. Maybe you tried a ritual once and you thought, no, this isn't for me. I won't even worry about this anymore. But you've already, just because you can't see it and you can't see it, smell it, and you can't sense it, it doesn't mean that it's not now in your house. It's active and live. Doesn't happen all the time. But we're talking about it can happen, and it does happen. So here's this little kid, and now he's got an entity attached to him, and he's not going to find out maybe for a decade until he actually comes to someone, a spiritual advisor, or he gets some energy work from someone that can understand or picks up these presences and says, wow, you've actually had a spiritual entity on you all these years. This is why you became addicted to drugs. This is why psychologically you're unsound, and yada, yada, yada. So it's very ignorant for people who are in my line of work not to understand the gravity and the issues that can happen when you actually do these type of rituals. I'm a mother of 3 myself, and I walk the talk. And yes, I've been doing this, as I said, for decades and decades and decades. And I raised 3 children, and while conducting rituals and so on and so forth. Okay, and I've spoken about this maybe in a blog or two. My youngest is a sensitive, so she can pick up on lots of different other spiritual entities, and she is like catnip to the spiritual world. So when I'm not with her and she's in a place that we do ritual, she is under attack. Okay, and I spoke about that in the blog, and maybe make another video about that some other time, because it really is so important. Let's also talk about if you're underage and say under 18. Now, of course, some of you out there 16, 15, 14 who are already so mature, and the problem is that you're probably living under your parents' home, under your parents' rule, and if something does go wrong, what support do you have to get yourself out of that situation? So if you bring some spiritual entity into your home and it's now out of your control, if you're 14, 15, 16, to you a year may feel like 10 years. You feel like you've been doing it forever, but 1 year in the spiritual world is absolutely nothing. Like I said, I've been doing this for decades, and I still know this much of that much. And I don't even know what I don't know. That's how much there is to know about this, right? So when you're 15, 16, 17, how much time have you actually had to experience or learn about the dark arts? Okay, and what experience have you had? Have you experienced a full-blown poltergeist situation? Do you know what it's like to have an entity come into your existence, enter your body, and affect you psychologically where you want to jump off a roof? Who's going to walk you down in that situation? You think your 911 friend is going to be there for you? Because most people, I can tell you right now, most of these people you're hanging around with, if you're in a little coven or a group that's trying to do this, will run out the door. Everyone thinks they're so tough, but when one of these entities comes into your space, your presence, you're going to run like Forrest Gump. Seriously. Yeah, I mean, it just blows my mind, these spiritual people that really think they got a hold on this. But I don't really feel like many people have really experienced a demonic parasite entering a space. What are you going to do? Can you afford to have someone remove that from you? And what are you going to say to the priest if you go to a church? And do you know how long that actually takes? An exorcism isn't just one and it's done. Sometimes exorcisms can go for years and years and years and years. And what's going to happen to your spiritual practices then? So, am I trying to turn you off it? Well, I'm giving you a warning. That is my job. That is my job, just to give you the truth, so you can decide what you want to do with this information. Now, there are some of you that are really strong. You're self-sufficient. You have been very studious, and you do have the support system around you, so you're ready to tackle the majority of things that could potentially be sent your way. All I'm going to say is that you need to be really psychologically sound to enter into this space, especially at a younger age. And I'm not just talking teenagers. Most people in their 20s may need to practice a different form of magic for now, for that exact reason, okay? So I have, based on the questions that you have asked, Black Witch Coven, people that are empathic, light workers, sensitives, anyone that is quite weak, and I don't mean that in an insulting way. You know that if you've had a traumatic childhood or abusive parents or alcoholic parents, or you are now addicted or have addictions, you are opening yourself up to some of the challenges when it comes to calling into the spiritual world. Okay. Even if it's just psychologically it starts to affect you, why would you want to do that when there's so many other ways that you can get the job done? So yeah, basically I have said, unless you're psychologically sound, unless, I don't know what movie you can really watch to get a real feeling of what it's like, but because it's a little bit Hollywood. But if you're thinking like a cross between The Exorcist and maybe The Conjuring, um, when that appears before you, what are you going to do? Like really? And do like a little fire drill to try and to really try and get in a state, be in a dark room and maybe play those noises and see what's going to happen. And if you have a plan for that, awesome, awesome. But if you don't, and you absolutely crap yourself, freaks you out totally, then just don't do this right now. You don't have to do this right now. So I know that sounds really boring coming from me, right? Someone that's doing demonic rituals and, you know, so forth. But this suits my personality type. And for many of you out there, it's going to suit your personality type as well. But yeah, if you've got young children in the house or you're a certain age that meet some of those things that I've just spoken about, then I'm going to say don't do it. So that's just my feelings on this matter. But I sure appreciate anyone else who has had a different experience. If you want to write into us and share your experience, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, see you next time.